Here we go, class. We're going to talk about number 4A on the 7.5 green worksheet. In this problem, you're asked to find the solutions to each equation. So what we're going to do here is for A, we're going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula. First, I'm going to calculate the discriminant. It's going to be the B squared minus 4 times A times C. When I square B, I get 4. 4AC is going to turn out to be 20. So 4 minus 20 is going to be negative 16. As of last week, we would have said that this equation then has no solution. When the discriminant is negative, there are no roots or no solutions. But today what we're going to do is talk about how we can find those solutions. They're just going to be complex. So they're going to be part imaginary, part real. So let's proceed with the problem and use the quadratic formula in its entirety. So this is 4A. We're going to do the opposite of B, plus and minus the square root of the discriminant, which we now know is negative 16, divided by 2A. So x will equal, since B is negative 2, the opposite of B is 2, plus and minus the square root of negative 16. Now normally we would say, no answer, you can't do that because it's negative. But now we know that if the square root of 16 is 4, then the square root of negative 16 is 4i. So the square root of negative 16 will be 4i, and on the bottom we're going to have 2 times a, which is just 2. So our solutions here are going to be 2 divided by 2 and plus and minus 4i divided by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. And 4i over 2 is 2i. So those are the two solutions to this equation. They are complex. And what you'll find is, if you take x equal to 1 plus 2i and substitute it into this equation, x squared minus 2x plus 5, and then you take x equals 1 minus 2i, and substitute that into this equation. Substitute both of those in for x. We should get 0. Those should be the two solutions to this problem. So let's take a look at that on the calculator. And what we're going to do is I'm going to recall something called the store feature on the calculator. And if you look down at this button right above on, STO, that's the store button. Sometimes the store button is easier to work with than actually plugging in 1 plus 2i. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the quantity 1 plus 2i, that's second I, and I want you to store that for x. Enter. So now the calculator says that it has 1 plus 2i in its memory for x. So if it's going to use that as its x, just type x squared minus 2x plus 5, and let's see if you get 0, and you do. So now I'm going to take 1 minus 2i. Again, I is second decimal point. There's a little I there. And if you didn't see this in class, you also want to make sure that under mode, you're under the A plus BI mode next to real. So press mode and put it on A plus BI. Let's quit out of there. Let's store that value in for x. Enter. Now let's type x squared minus 2x plus 5. So what the calculator is doing is it's using this value as its value for x. And when you hit enter, it says 0. So we checked our solution using substitution. Everything checks out, and we're done with 4A. Go ahead and use a similar method for the rest of part 4 now. Any problems that are in root or vertex, just kidding, let's call them factored form. Go ahead and distribute that so you can use the quadratic formula. And while we're at it, let's take that 1 that's on the right side and subtract it over to the left. Now we're going to use the quadratic formula with A, B, and C. In B and E, these problems are actually a lot easier. All you want to do, if there's no x term, take away 7 from both sides and take the square root. It's going to be plus or minus the square root of negative 7. That's going to be plus or minus I root 7. If this would have been the square root of negative 16, it would have been plus or minus 4i. If it would have been plus or minus the square root of negative 25, it would have been plus or minus 5i. When it's the square root of 7 and you don't know what the square root is, you're just going to call it I root 7. So that's how we'll do B and E. Go ahead and complete the rest of number 4 as part of your homework tonight.